Good morning. How are you doing today, Mark?
Doing all right, Mike. So, some news yesterday with your candidacy. It seems that you have bowed out graciously from the primary and throwing your support behind Claudia Tenney. Mike, what's the reasoning behind this move?
Well, it's because I looked over, like anyone, I reevaluated everything when Claudia got into the race. And a three-way race between her and me and Mr. Hanna, well, it doesn't make sense. It's going to split the vote, and that makes Mr. Hanna win. And that's not to the advantage of anyone in the district. We need a consistent and clear voice in Congress. We need someone who we can count on and know how they're going to vote. And the only way to get that, by my understanding of it and looking at it, was that I needed to step out and put my support behind Assemblywoman Tenney.
What makes Assemblywoman Tenney more attractive as a candidate in your mind than, Congressman Hanna or the Tea Party candidate, Mike Vasquez? Oh, I'm sorry, Mike Kaczynski, Mike, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say. Well, in all honesty, Assemblywoman Tenney I have some weaknesses. I'm a first-time candidate. I'm not as well known in terms of name recognition. I have limited funds personally and the ability to raise funds. That's normal for a first-time candidate. And Claudia Tenney doesn't have these things. She is a assemblywoman. She has knowledge. She's got experience as an elected official. She has many, actually, almost all the same views that I have. She's been very consistent in her voting record and what she said publicly. She is a strong voice. She's a very conservative and Republican. And she's consistent. These are all things that we're not seeing with Mr. Hanna, and there are things that I'm missing. And so, to be honest, she has those things that I miss, and that makes her better than me. And that makes me the weakest person of the three. And that's why I would say her. As for Mr. Kaczynski, well, he has a few more weaknesses, and so I didn't really factor that in.
Frank, go ahead.
Michael, your comments about consistent and clear.
Yes.
Those comments, I think, were addressed toward Mr. Hanna's record in voting in his position as congressperson.
Yes.
When you say consistent and clear, is that from a conservative perspective? Is that from a constituent's perspective? And how do you, because you are more of a conservative, do you believe that having a more consistent conservative record speaks on behalf of those in the district? Do you really believe conservative defines our district?
Well, it's conservative and Republican, and more importantly, just overall. When we speak about Mr. Hanna's record, you can look at it as a conservative, you can look at it as a Republican, you can look at it as almost anything. And what you'll see consistently is that he's not consistent. He's not falling in line. When you're talking about STEM jobs, science, technology, engineering, and math, that he's promoting giving 160,000 jobs to foreigners before Americans, well, that's not something I don't know anyone of any party that supports that besides Mr. Hanna.
Explain that to us. What do you mean by that, giving jobs to foreigners over Americans?
Sure. It's actually a bill that he's co-sponsored and he's been promoting, H.R. 2131. It's called the Skills Visa Act, and he's a proponent of that. It's been packaged mostly with immigration reform, and that bill will give 160,000 STEM jobs to foreigners, and at a time where we're looking at there's going to be a glut of 2-to-1 the number of Americans who are qualified for STEM jobs over the next 10 years. So there'll be two of them looking for one job, and he wants to add to that competition by giving 160,000 jobs to foreigners. This doesn't make sense to me.
Mike, I was kind of surprised when we saw this announcement yesterday. What's this mean for your political aspirations for public office? You're going to be running again for anything else?
I have no idea. I've never really, as I said, I think the first time I spoke to you guys, I never wanted to be a politician. That's
Right.
not been a goal of mine. But I believe there was a defined need because of the record of Mr. Hanna and because of his inconsistency. And that's what brought me to this. And I think I've done at least part of my job in raising the bar and getting Assemblywoman Tenney and many others interested in this race and people talking about it, as opposed to like in 2012 where it was just a given. And going forward, there's been several opportunities mentioned to me, and I'm looking at them, and if I can help the district and the people by running again, I would consider it.
Michael, in your press release, it indicates that you will throw your hat behind Assemblywoman Tenney and her efforts to run for Congress. How will you go about assisting Claudia Tenney in her efforts?
Absolutely. I'm 100% behind her. Now, the question would be, how can I help her? I'm talking about it today and talking about it at any time in the future that the press will allow me to speak on this. I'm going to go out and get petitions for her. I will help her campaign in any way that they need help, whatever they need help with. It's not been defined. Something I should make clear. And I know there's been a whisper campaign about this before. I was not asked to leave the race. I was not forced out of the race. This was something I contacted her about. This is something that I volunteered. So we don't have a plan out there. If she asks me to help on any particular project, I'll do it.
Well, Michael, while you state that name recognition, involvement, history, background, in comparison to Claudia Tenney, makes you to think that she is a better candidate, I think we would be remiss if we didn't identify your knowledge, your history, your background in the Southern Tier. Given that background and that solid footing in the Southern Tier, have you reached out to Claudia Tenney's campaign to see how you can help?
Yes.
Down in that area?
Yes, and I have been speaking to them. Not as much. The first conversation, which was a day, what was it? Not yesterday, the day before yesterday. We had a short conversation. When I let her know that I was going to be leaving the race. It was a difficult conversation yesterday, and today are difficult conversations. But after that, I expect to have some further conversation with them about what we can do to specifically help them in this area.
Mike, appreciate your time today. And graciously bowing out of the primary. I was telling Jay yesterday, I said, wow, that's got to be the best press release I've ever read in a long time. So you did a good job with the press release, at least.
Well, thank you about that. And something I want to make people aware, I'm still going to be out there during this race, at the very least. I'm going to be at an anti-New York SAFE Act rally on April 12th. I'm going to continue to be at rallies and events speaking about the issues, as I have for the last year. I'm going to make sure that as much as I can, that I'll continue to stand up for the people during this race. And see if I can get the press coverage for it. That's even better.
All right. Excellent. Mike, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Bye-bye.